Hi there. Welcome to the Imperfect Prophet podcast for women who wonder. Frankly, as we go through life, I'm sure we wonder about a great deal. First as little kids, then as adolescents, then as young women, then as transitional women. What are we calling ourselves these days? And then you get to this point in life, or my point in life, when you're postmenopausal and wondering what's next. Wondering if the parade already passed you by. Join me, Wonder Wendy. I'm going to be your host as we talk about some of these unique challenges that face women today in a new millennium, going through menopause and trying to live a rich, full life. There might even be a few men and younger women that want to listen in too. That's okay. But there's a roller coaster and we're all on it. And I'm going to be your guide to help you figure out when you should close your eyes, when you should hang on, and maybe we'll explore some ideas for what works for you if it doesn't work for me, or vice versa. So join the conversation, pick up your favorite beverage, and we'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Imperfect Prophet.
We've all heard the phrase, it's as easy as riding a bike. And when I was a kid, I was 6 years old, I'm pretty sure. My dad taught me to ride my little blue two-wheeler in a nearby school parking lot. Training wheels off, wide open pavement. Dad running alongside with me until at last he let go because he trusted that I had it. I didn't quite agree with him. I remember saying, "Why did you let go?" And being momentarily full of fear. I felt the wobble, the instability, and then realized I had it. I was pedaling on my own without his help. Now, we might have had to repeat that exercise a couple times, but pretty quickly I had it. And once I'd proven it with a few laps around the parking lot, we ran home to tell my mom. Because, what good is it to have an achievement if somebody doesn't applaud for you? And my mom came back with us just to watch me ride my bicycle in my newfound achievement. It is worth noting that there was one car in that parking lot. Just one, that great big parking lot, one car. I think you probably know where this is going. I did a lap. My mom was proud of me. I kept bicycling and showing my mom, who was proud of me. Maybe I was paying more attention to my audience than to my actual riding. And you guessed it, I managed to crash into that one car in the parking lot. Scraped knees, tears, maybe a bloody elbow. And that was the end of my short-lived bicycling career. For almost a year, due to my fear and a few extenuating circumstances, I didn't get back on my bike. Now, my dad, excuse my congestion today. My dad grew up on a farm. He had a lot of common sense New England wisdom, and he firmly believed that you had to get back on the horse that threw you. He knew that my avoiding getting back on that bicycle was only making it worse, and I needed to get back on. He kept suggesting, I kept resisting, and one day, he decided to force the issue. I vividly remember being across his shoulder, kicking and screaming, "No, I don't want to!" as he carried me down the stairs, and then went out and got my bicycle with the other hand, and we paraded up to the school parking lot. Must have been quite a sight now that I think about it as an adult. And he got me to the parking lot. I don't remember the transitions, but obviously whatever he did worked because I still ride my bicycle to this day. And it's not fancy 10 speed. I just have a little beachcomber and I pedal along sitting upright with a helmet, of course, because now we have new safety standards, which are probably very smart. But I pedal along and I frequently catch myself singing because it's the perfect bicycling cadence. Wow, last week I talked about the cowardly lion. And this week we're talking about the Wicked Witch of the West. Oh, Miss Gulch. Anyway, I bike along and I enjoy my bike riding. I use it for running errands when the weather is cool enough here in Arizona that we can bicycle without exploding. But you know what's funny? After the end of a long summer, when it's been too hot to ride my bike and I pull that bike out again, there's always a moment that I say, do I still remember how to do this? Can I trust myself to keep my balance? That little wobble when I first start the bicycle up, and I'm not sure I still know how to do it. And of course, I've never had another major crash. So apparently I got the hang of it. And I still remember 50 some odd years later how to ride that bicycle. So it's all good. But here's where we get to our next episode. Why do we question ourselves so much? I mean, do you remember learning how to ride a bike? Do you remember that fear, that imbalance? And if you never learned, what keeps you from taking off the training wheels? Why don't you trust in your body? We need to trust what we already know. And with that, I welcome you to another episode of The Imperfect Prophet with me, your host, Wonder Wendy. I may be drinking more of my beverage than usual because this little frog in my throat has no desire to go away. So I'm obviously allergic to something lately. It's been going on for a few days. But I hope you have your beverage too, because as you know, especially here in Arizona, I believe if you're not drinking, you're dying. So stay hydrated because it's one of the basic self-care techniques. Now back to talking about trusting yourself to act on what you already know. Now, when we were talking about the bicycle, balance was a big part of it. Balance isn't about perfection. It's not about finding a solution that's going to take you to the end of your life, especially when riding a bicycle and especially in life. It's about adjusting while you are in motion. We don't get balanced once and for all. Once and for all. My mouth doesn't even want to work today. We're always making tiny corrections. Hit a rock, wobble, wobble, wobble. Adjust. Skid a little. Adjust. The wind's in your face. The wind's hitting you from the side. You adjust a little bit. Think of all the things you've endured. Think of all the things you've achieved. You've got experience. You've raised families or been a mother figure to a nephew or a niece or a mentee or someone you work with. You've built careers. You've loved. You've lost. You've created. You've built a foundation of skills, whether you knew it or not. You have developed an incredible skill set. You've got wisdom and resilience. So why do we keep asking ourselves, am I ready? Am I good enough? I'm here to tell you, you are. Which brings me to the art of letting go. A couple weeks ago, I was invited to an art class, and it was literally called The Art of Letting Go. The structure of this workshop was that you would relax, invite the spiritual world into your world, and follow the instructions of the teacher to create an art piece. Now, I'm a creative person, but drawing, let me just say you don't want me on your Pictionary team. Still, I decided to trust the process. And when Dave, the teacher, asked who had painted before, I raised my hand because, hey, I painted my living room yellow during COVID just because I needed a little bit of sunshine inside. It's not exactly a mural, but he asked who'd painted, and I've painted. His process, we chose 3 colors. And when I chose these 3 beautiful, intense colors that ironically do reflect my logo colors. I guess I'm in tune with those colors right now. We mixed them with a medium according to his directions. And my once beautiful palette of colors turned into something that looked like a melted sherbet. I was not thrilled. But there's a process. Trust the process. I followed the steps and watched something beautiful begin to emerge. You had a technique for pouring the paints into a cup, and then you poured the cup onto the canvas. And as I poured them onto the canvas, I began to see something beautiful emerging. But he said, don't get wed to what it looks like right now, because we still have more to do. And then we began to tilt the canvas so that the paint completely covered it. And then different details began to emerge, and the colors began to change, and the depth began to change. And when it was done, he said, don't get attached to this, because when it dries, it may look like something yet again different. Well, I like this, but okay, trusting the process. God, that's so hard sometimes, isn't it? A few days later, I got the finished project. And it's beautiful. It isn't what I initially saw. And yet it reminds me of trusting. So I hung it where I can see it regularly. Yeah. I hope my mouth catches up with me today. And I look at it and remember, I don't have to control all the details. Something beautiful is going to emerge. And remember to trust the process. I know it's so hard, especially as we get older and we think we know what we know, to not trust the process. But sometimes you need to. So find a way to practice the art of letting go. If you're in Phoenix, let me know. I will tell you how to find Dave and his classes. If you're not in Phoenix, find some way to stretch yourself a little bit and trust somebody else to take the wheel for a few minutes. You'll grow from it, I promise. So that was a couple weeks ago. Then this past week, I was in New York. I know, I didn't film an episode while I was in New York. It was a crazy few days in the city, and I apologize for not sharing my journey to the city with you. But while I was there, I signed up for a fashion boot camp with Christian Siriano. Yes, that Christian Siriano, one of the darlings of Project Runway, who's now the mentor. And he's a designer to the stars. And yes, even put out a fun Target collection. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a little bit of Christian Siriano? I thought this would all be about fabrics and runway magic. And then I saw the fine print, 2 hours of fashion illustration. Hey, remember me, not on your Pictionary team. Cue the dread. I've never trusted sketching a fashion figure freehand. I've traced over a form on tracing paper so that I had the body positions, because that body proportion thing, it's so easy to have a head this big or a head this small and a body this, and it always scares me. But once again, I decided to repeat the word trust. Christian said he'd teach us, and now I'm going to trust. Out walked a model wearing a gorgeous dress, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much detail to this. Nope, stop listening to those voices that are saying you can't do it. And I listened to Christian. And this is one of my 2 pictures. Yay! It's not gorgeous. It's not perfect. There were a lot of people in that room who were actual artists who have done a lot of fashion drawing. A lot of them looked better than mine. But Christian was guiding, and he was very gentle. That arm looks a little thick. Nice shading. But it was my hand that placed the lines. And then came markers. Oh my gosh, so bold, so permanent. I'm used to pencils and watercolors because you can kind of fudge and erase and keep things soft. And this was different. And I did it anyway. And as you saw, it worked out. Well, those of you on YouTube saw. I'll try and post some pictures. So here's the trust cycle. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. First, there's that moment of dread. I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. I've forgotten how. It wasn't good the last time I did it. That dread is so real, all those voices in your head. But then you get to the decision point. I need to do this. I can trust anyway. What's going to go wrong? I mean, am I going to die if I fail at this? That's your decision point. And then you actually get into it, and there's that messy middle. When, like I said, when it looks like melted sherbet, when I first drew an arm that looked very strange because I didn't quite understand the directions, and I had to take the eraser and fix it. Oh, wait, there are erasers. It's not the end of the world. And then the surprise. Hey, there may be other ones in this room that are much better, but this isn't half bad. And the lesson. My worth is not perfection. It's in the trying. So you'll go through dread. You'll have to make a decision to commit. It might be messy in the middle. And there's probably a surprise waiting for you at the end, and definitely a lesson at the end. And even if you're thinking, I'm not an artist, even if you're not an artist, there's probably something else you've been struggling with. Something that you maybe want to try, or you tried once and failed, and now you're not sure you want to try it again. Or something that you did a long time ago and you're not sure you still have that skill anymore. I go through that every time I bake bread. I used to bake bread all the time, and now I do it very rarely. And every time I think, do I still have the knack? Because when I was doing it all the time, I actually knew the recipe by heart. I could almost feel it. I could sense it. And now I have to think about it. It's a different muscle. So yes, there's always something. And they're not always little things like this. Sometimes they're big life moments. Whether you take a leap to the next job, whether you're a grandparent that needs to take custody of your grandchild. There's all sorts of things that challenge you in life. Dealing with life after the loss of a spouse or a partner. All these things are very real. And yet, in many ways, we tackle them just the same way you would going into that art class. Dread, decision, going through the mess, experiencing the surprise, and learning the lesson. So what do these stories have in common? Every one of them is a reminder that we already know more than we give ourselves credit for. That balance, that resilience, that inner knowing, it's not gone. It just needs to be trusted. The bike, sometimes we crash, or that little voice convinces us we've forgotten. The art class, sometimes the process looks ugly before it turns beautiful. Fashion illustration, sometimes you're surrounded by people who seem more talented, but your job is simply to show up and trust yourself. Trust that moment and be your best self. No, you won't always be perfect or the best, but perfection is overrated. I've seen the best person not get the job because they didn't have the heart for it. I've seen the best artwork, most technical, perfect artwork, not be the best artwork because it lacked passion. Maybe what this needs is not someone who's more technically perfect, but someone who's more you. Give that some thought. Maybe you are exactly what is needed. I remember one time I was leading worship at church. I've done that a few times, but this was the first time. And I had written down almost everything that needed to be done during the service. I made a note that we were going to say the Lord's Prayer, but I didn't put all the words in there because I've known those for, since I was a tween. I mean, who doesn't know the words to the Lord's Prayer? Our Father who art in heaven, blah, 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 blah. You know, partway in, there was that one car in the parking lot again. Yep. I froze. I just didn't even know where I was. I couldn't remember the words to the prayer. I was lost. Mercifully, I looked up and my husband was in the front row. And he could see in my eyes that I didn't have a clue what the next word was. And he began to clearly enunciate each and every word so that I could just follow him. Oh, I was mortified. But you know what? Life went on. Me and maybe my husband are probably the only ones who still remember. And failure is not the end of the story. It's just part of being in motion. You're going to fail once in a while, and that's okay. So I want to offer you a bike framework for trusting yourself. I know, going back to being a 6 or a 7-year-old to teach you how to live your life at this point in your life. But I think sometimes Robert Fulghum was right. Everything I need to know, I did learn in kindergarten. You need balance, momentum. You have to remember to get back up. And sometimes you need a push. Balance. Trust that you can make little adjustments on the go. And that's okay. As a matter of fact, it's necessary. Life is never really static. Momentum. Once you get going, it's often a lot easier because you've got that rhythm. And that momentum helps you stay balanced, actually. Okay, but once in a while, you hit a rock. Something will go wrong. And you'll need to get back up again. But falling doesn't mean failing. It means you're in motion. Even if you need a Band-Aid and a few kisses to get back up again. Get back on the horse that threw you. My dad was right. Dang it. I wish he was still alive so I could tell him that. Hey, Dad, you were right. I hope you're hearing me. And last but not least, a loving push, a supportive nudge, or someone mouthing the words to get you through to the end. Sometimes you just need someone in your corner. So line up those allies. And I say allies plural. Relying on one best friend, it's really good to have that one best friend. But sometimes you need a lot of best friends. You know, there's the one who advises you on which pair of shoes go best with the outfit. There's the one that can tell you which is the best wine to pick when you're sitting in a restaurant staring at a huge wine menu. There's that one who can help you find the best restaurant. I know these are all superficial things, but they represent other things in your life. The one you go to when you're having intimacy issues with your spouse. The one who you go to when you're having intimacy issues with your boss because your boss is way up your space. All those things are very real. Have someone in your corner. So remember the bike framework. Balance, momentum, getting back up, and someone who can give you a little push. Okay, bucket listers. Here's where we're going this week. I want you to think about where in your life you're doubting skills you already have. What would it look like to trust your own wisdom to get back on the bike, whatever that represents for you, and let that messy middle lead to a beautiful end? You already know how. Trust yourself. And most of all, remember this. The world needs your skills now more than ever. Let's make it a better place together. Okay? Until next week, have a week full of wonder, a wonderful week. Reach out to me on social media or just send me a message if you need to talk. With love and wonder, I'm Wonder Wendy, and I'll talk to you soon.
Like what you heard here today? Then we should be friends. I suggest you join my Facebook group. It's a good way to connect. We can have a conversation. Ask me questions, whatever you want to do. It is called the Wonderful Bucket List Life. That's wonder-full bucket list life. Be a bucket lister and join me on this adventure. Or you can go to my webpage, which is Wonder Wendy and Friends. Join the mailing list, learn about the book I wrote, adventures that are coming up in the future, and other podcasts. I look forward to talking to you soon, and stay hydrated. Have a great day.